You're watching Good Evening San Diego.
No matter how old you are, most of us would like to find a way to improve our short-term memory. Salk Institute scientists are making some major inroads in that field of study. And joining us now to talk about it is a professor at the Salk Institute, Terrence Sanowski. Professor, good to talk with you tonight.
Great to be here.
Well, Professor, does this mean your research is going to help me figure out where I put my keys?
Well, we will hopefully be able to tell you how you remember to find your keys, but I'm not sure immediately that we can help you find your keys. But the first step that we're taking, which is basic science, is to understand the neural circuits in your brain, and especially in the prefrontal cortex in the front of your brain, that is important. It's called working memory for remembering what you've done recently.
Okay, so tell me the differences. You've got your working memory, your short-term memory, and your long-term memory, right?
That's right. There are many memory systems in the brain, and the ones that we're focusing on right now is called the declarative system, which is things that you can fax events, things that you can remember from one day to the next. The idea of a working memory is that not only can you remember something short term, but you can actually use it to make decisions.
Oh, wow. Explain to me a little bit about that.
Well, the cortex has many different parts, and each one of them is responsible for a different function. Like there's a visual cortex in the back, and then there's a motor cortex in the middle, and the touch. Hearing, and so it's organized in a very complex hierarchical way. And by the way, this is now the way that artificial intelligence is organized. This is called deep learning, which is a technique, a tool that we used in order to be able to actually make a model for this working memory system in the prefrontal cortex. But the idea, though, is that it's a way of holding on to information. For example, if you're listening to someone say a sentence, you may have to connect a word at the end of the sentence with a word you heard at the beginning to understand the meaning. And that's an example of what we call working memory.
Okay, I saw this model that was published in December in it was a Nature Neuroscience, and what really jumped out at me is how this model was helping to shed light on, short-term memory in schizophrenia and also other disorders and also normal aging. So in layman's terms, help me understand how your research is unlocking the clues to figuring that out.
Well, here is the big discovery, which was something, I shouldn't say discovery, because it's really a hypothesis. So when you do a model, what you do is you put in everything you know about the way that the cortex is connected and the different types of cells. And then what you do is try to replicate some of the function. And if you can, then you have a hypothesis for how that might be done in the brain. You can go in, do experiments, and test it. Now, here's the model now. The model told us that it wasn't the excitatory cells, the majority, like 80% of the cells in the cortex are excitatory, but it wasn't those that were making decisions and holding on to the information. It was a smaller group called the inhibitory cells, and there are many different types. But these inhibitory cells in our model were critically important for being able to not just hold on to the information, but to manipulate it. Now, the connection with schizophrenia is that there's mounting evidence that sometime very early in development, and in fact in the womb, it's thought that the inhibitory cells don't get connected up properly. But it's not until late adolescence and early adulthood that this now becomes a behavioral problem, which is lifelong and debilitating. And as you know, 1% of the population suffers from this terrible mental disorder. But there's a convergence now that it's in fact these are the cells that we think are important for working memory and making decisions, and we think that that's what goes awry in the schizophrenia brain.
Wow, this is truly. I mean, you say you're shedding a light on this subject, but I really think you're breaking new ground. We have run out of time for today, but I'd really like to have you back on because I'd like to talk about ways that you can actually improve your short-term memory as well. So, if our producers will get back in touch with you, Professor, and let's have you on and continue this discussion.
Great, happy to help.
All right, thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.